Okay, Rabbi side. Very nice when you know that you have 2 days of Lakute back to back. It always feels like there's it's like a movement. So in Sif Gimel of the Heilige Torah Samech Aleph, and in the English edition, maybe so someone could share with the page. In the English edition, Sif Gimel, we're on page. Let's open it up for the Olam. It's 221, page 221. So we're speaking about the Sod HaIber, no biggie. The secret of the movements of the constellations and how that the Jewish people were entrusted with making the festivals in their right season, ensuring that Pesach falls in the springtime, ensuring that we have the proper leap years when needed. And as we mentioned last time, the unbelievable detail of awareness that Moshe Rabbeinu had, understanding thousands of years ago that how long is a month? 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, and 2.87 seconds. And that without any instrumentation, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to get to 0.5 of a second of that number. Thank you so much. And that this was entrusted to us. But not only is astronomy something that the Jewish nation was always celebrated as understanding, we also understood the astrology. And we see that these two elements are not two separate concepts, they really flow together. That through understanding the astronomy and the scientific mapping of the universe, which we're going to learn about more today, we see that it's teaching us things, it's guiding us things. Now, if you have Tweedledbug 472 and her horoscope column in the Sunday Times, Lav Dafka, she knows the Sod HaIber. And therefore, even though maybe she's learned a little bit of Copernicus in her day, in Galileo, but it doesn't mean that she's holding in the messaging. However, the Arizal could tell you the messaging, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai could tell you the messaging, and the Baal Shem Tov HaKodesh could tell you the messaging. And really, we're going to learn together that you're also supposed to know the messaging. Sounds good, right? You're also supposed to know the messaging, but that takes emunas chacham, which has been the whole theme of this Torah. So let's go into Gimel. Va'al yidei zeh. Now, al yidei zeh, the zeh here is through going into exile and through lack of emunas chachamim, and therefore lack of eitzes yesharos, everything we've built up in the Torah. Nilkach mimenu, it's taken from us. Chochmas taluche gal gali harakia. The understanding of the movements of the solar system has been taken from us. Leda kol haishtanus vasidus. That's amazing. To know all the things that will happen and all future events. Haboim alde galgali harakia. That yes, by understanding the planetary movements, you could look into the future. You could see where things are going. And of course, the Mayans were into this, and the Aztecs were into this, and the Egyptians were into this. But the Yidden had the side of this. But if we remove and we go away from Emunas Chachamim, then what happens? V'nimsa lahem. So it's given to the nations of the world. Now the question is, what's given? As we'll see soon. We're going to learn today that there's such a thing called a secret that can be told, and then a secret that can be told, but it's not fully told. Meaning a secret that still remains a secret. That somebody knows that you know something, but they don't know what you know. Think about that for a second. Meaning, Stam, Rav Moti was talking to me about this yesterday in a beautiful way. He said, if somebody says, I don't know what you know. So either he Stam has no idea. You know what I'm saying? Like, you push it, don't know. He just doesn't know anything. Or he knows enough to know that he doesn't know. Something that you know. Tachlis hayidiyah shaloi neda, like it says, the greatest knowledge of Hashem is knowing that I don't know. If Stam a guy's like, I don't know Hashem, like, okay, Stam, you could be you don't know. But somebody who mamish knows a lot and says, wow, I should have no idea how great Hashem is. So he knows enough to know he doesn't know. So we're going to see that this soid is something that we're going to be able to pass this on, meaning it's really taken from us. The nations of the world will know that we know something, but they'll actually know that they don't know. And we'll see what that means. And it's going to be a very interesting topic. That's something that really was given from Har Sinai to us. And the Torah was offered to all the nations of the world. And anybody who wants to join the Jewish people, they can come. They could come if they want. We're not going out there standing on the streets, with booths. But anybody who wants to come could come. So look what it says. This chachma of understanding the future, of understanding the taluche of the galgalim, how the solar system and the orbits, and we're going to learn soon some of these orbits. This was given to us. Now, why was it given to us? It was given to us in a fascinating way, as the Torah points out. Ki hi chachmaschem ubinaschem le'enei oamen. That this is a pasuk in the Torah. This is your chachma, the Jewish people. This is your bina, your understanding, le'enei oamen, for the eyes of the world to see. What does that mean? This is special for you, that the eyes of the world will see that the Jewish people were given something special. Not better, special, that can help humanity. V'darshu Rabbi Seinu Zal. And the Gemara learns this pasuk and says, Ezu chachma ubina shehi le'enei oam. What is this wisdom that the nations of the world say that the Jewish people have something that was given to them? Hevi oimer ze chishuv tekufus umazolos. This is the ability to understand the movement of the spheres, the movement of the planets, to understand astronomy, and also to understand astrology. But it begins with astronomy. To have astrology without astronomy is just fluffy. To have astronomy without astrology, you're just probably a chashuv scientist. To have astronomy that is indicating astrology, oh, that's chachma, that's bina. That's really seeing into the future. And that's a big wisdom. And in the ancient world, it was known that the Sanhedrin and the men of the Great Assembly had great, great wisdom in this area, going all the way back, as we mentioned last time, to Moshe Rabbeinu, with detailed awareness of the movements. And not only the movements of the moon, but many, many orbits and many, many planetary and cosmic events. As the Gemara points out, that Rav Gamliel was on a ship. I think Rav Chanina, that he brought extra provisions, and the sailors went astray. And it was a good thing that he had all these extra provisions. And he asked them, what was up with that? He said, you should know there was a comet that comes once every 70,000 years. And I noticed it was on its way. And that comet, I thought, the astronomy would indicate the astrology, that it would make the sailors err in their navigation. And therefore, I knew we'd probably be at sea longer than needed. And therefore, I made sure, we had, extra cholent and stuff.
How does that work?
Or superfoods.
How would you know how does that correlate that they would make an error based off something happening in space?
Because to really know the details of this, you need to have this chachma. But that there's certain planetary, astronomical events that indicate astrological outcomes. That there'll be influences, there'll be energies that will come into the world and move humanity in different ways.
Is that like scientific thing, like for example, how like
it starts as a scientific
has
thing.
to do with the tide, right? So you could say like, oh, the tide, like astrologically or whatever it is like has the energies of the moon, but really we know it's like a scientific thing. So is it like a compromise guy? It's pulling, there's gravity, like there's something technical, like actual going on, and then we just call that like the stars. I
think they really go together. I think there's a physical reality.
Not a miracle, right?
No, not a miracle. It's being able to read the signs, which is really, this whole Torah is about having eitzah, understanding what's going on. This whole Torah is about how to live life. This is just the ultimate, seeing the signs of the movement of the galaxy and being able to guide my life, that things are being indicated. I'm able to move through life as these influences are coming down, that I'm able to attach myself to the chokhmah ila'ah. And that's going to guide me how to move through life and not get thrown off when, Venus gets close, whatever the orbit is. Or Mars is in its house and rising.
Mercury in retrograde.
Yeah, Mercury in retrograde. Don't leave your house. You know what I'm saying? So there's an influence there. So how do I know how to just be sensitive to those influences? Now we'll see that it's all lamala, ein mazli yisrael. It's all lamala, but the lamala min hateva is that I'm connecting to the seichel hakoilel, as we'll learn soon, the chokhmah ila'ah, to the source of what's moving all the orbits. What's the source of all the movement, as we'll see soon. Ki yesh b'zeh seichel. Now this is so interesting. Rabbi Nachman calls this now a seichel. There's a seichel sheyishar hasoid etzleinu. There's a certain seichel that even though that this wisdom is going out to the nations of the world, and as we saw, that Galileo and Copernicus, and this became like very big, and the Greek astronomers, that it became very, very much that the nations of the world became great scientists. And as we mentioned last time, the Chazon Ish would learn astronomy books to understand Gemara Rosh Hashanah, which I think some of the Olam is learning, which is very technical. You learned Gemara Rosh Hashanah?
You would learn secular astrology to understand?
Yes. Astronomy.
Astronomy, okay.
Astronomy. He knew the astrology. I mean, he had to read the astronomy. Oh, that's how the movement is going. And then, from that, because there's unbelievable scientists out there. Mamish. Amazing. But so much of what we're going to see, remember, this whole Torah is about that Ksav Yedeyem, Ksav Yodam, is going to be Nichna Tachas Ksav Yodeinu. That Rav Nachman, this is a very big idea, that Rav Nachman, we're not about like hiding in the shtetl. We're all about how can we bring all the wisdom of the world into a God consciousness. All of it. All the wisdom of the world. How can we bring it though because all of that wisdom is really indicating something from Hashem. It's talking to us. So how can we, and that was what we said, if that's the tzaddik, that's the Rav that's Hagun, if somebody gives smicha to a Rav that's Hagun, means he is connecting back to the Chokhmah Ila'ah. He's connecting it back to source. But somebody gives smicha and calls somebody a rabbi who's not Hagun, he's like his own seichel. He's cut off. He's like a separate thing. It's like he became like a PhD or something. He's like a professor. It's like me, the head of the department. So that's like a separate thing, not connected back to source, and that's a big problem. So what we want to do though is take all those professors, all those scientists, and bring it into Avodas Hashem. That's what we were talking about yesterday. The ChatGPT is going to start pumping out, I know you're looking up the Knicks score, but really I see what you're looking for is a connection to God. That even the Ksav Yedeyim, the Ksav Yodam, is going to start moving and talking about Hashem and indicating things to us. Somebody was telling me yesterday that you always have to know if studies like they say are legit, but let's say it is. That Harvard did a very big study that people who give tzedakah make more money than people who don't. I mean, the Torah said that if you give tzedakah, you make more money. And you can even test Hashem in this. You give ma'aser, you make more money. You give away money, you actually make more money. So Harvard did like this mega study. And they showed, now they gave like a psychological, because when you're giving money, you're like looking for opportunities and makes connections, and then it's a beautiful psychological analysis. But why is that? That's because Hashem set up the psychology that way. So really, I think what's going to start happening is all the legit scientific papers are going to start having like a big b'siyata d'shmai on the corner of the paper. Like that's where this is going. Then we're not going to reject all that. That's part of the whole corpus of looking for God, looking for the way the world works. And the cosmological movements is like the ultimate, like mapping out the universe. This is like the ultimate scientific exploration of how the universe is set up. And we're going to see that all of that is just talking to us. It's guiding us in a certain way. So there's a certain seichel, this is interesting, that this seichel is able to give over the scientific process while keeping a certain side, while holding on to a certain side. So look what it says. Afal pi shemoydin lehem hachachma, that once there's a lack of emunas chacham, and therefore it's going, and it's splintering off, and all of these seichels are kind of getting split off into like it's just a scientific approach, not connected to something higher. And that's now spreading around the world. Why was it that this chachma went out and spread around the world? Kedei sheyedu mechachmaseinu, she'ana yoydin chachmazu. There's such a thing that the nations of the world would know that the Yidden had this chachma. They would see that, Moshe Rabbeinu, there were great Jews who knew this. Like the pasuk says, that the world will know that there's a chachma and a bina, that the Yidden have something special. And what is that something special? Really, that we're trying to help humanity go forward and go in a positive direction. This is all pro-humanity stuff here. This is like the ultimate pro-humanity. This is the most progressive. Rabbi Nachman is so progressive. I'm not kidding. He's so progressive. This is ultimate pro-humanity, that we could bring all of humanity into a vision of God guiding us. This is like, and everything's going to be part of this. Vim came. So look what it says. So if so, how could you have such a thing? If that chachma of the movement of the orbits of the universe is going to be given over, so it's not a side. How is it a side? There's such a seichel that we could give over this chachma. Afal pike, nevertheless, yishar asoid etzleinu. We give enough to the world that they know now, and they see there's something that they know, but also that they know that they don't know. And what is the thing that they know? They know the movements of the universe. But there's such a seichel that's able to give something over in a way where they know, but they know that there's something more. There's something that they don't know. They know that they know, and they know that they know that they don't know something. It's an interesting seichel. Tachlis hayadiyah shaloi neda.
The Chachamim itself doesn't know something, or the people doesn't know what they know.
People.
People don't know. Okay.
And Reb Nachman makes a beautiful diuk on this. He says this is what the pasuk means. It doesn't say ki hi chachmaschem ubinaschem la'amim. It says la'einei ho'amim. La'einei ho'amim daike. It's only to the eyes of the world. They see that there's something, they don't see the whole story. The Hainu, shehi rak la'einei ho'amim. B'shah shemoidim lahem. They know that they don't know. They receive something, but they know that something is still missing in the story. Like honest scientists will admit, we don't know things. We don't know the origin of the universe. We know a lot, we observe a lot, but we don't know where this thing came from. We have theories. We don't know. Which means I know a lot, but I know that I don't know. Like an honest scientist will tell you that there's so much I don't know. There's so much I don't know. What you would think, like, what do you mean? Like, just, you looked into the world, you got microscopes, and you're seeing, electrons and strings and quarks. You figured the whole thing out. We have no idea.
I think the deeper you go, the more complicated it gets, or the more infinitely you don't know. The more deep.
Exactly. The more you go, and now what the scientists will tell you, so we just see that things are information. Well, that's kind of complex. Information. We're in the shahakal. Which shahakal is the whole universe. We're in the shahakal.
By donating money, you show people that you don't know that you. I don't understand. Can you repeat that?
Donate. We mentioned donate. How do we mention donating money? We said was the Harvard study. Was them explaining that people who give make more. So what we're pointing out there is that that's a beautiful study.
But you're progressing the world forward.
You're progressing the world forward. Yeah, you're moving the world forward. You're helping to reveal things about the world. And that's an amazing thing. It's beautiful. What we're going to see in the end of days, though, is all of that is going to acknowledge that all of that wisdom and all of that understanding that the world operates in this way. The great conclusion of our study was that God set up the world this way. But through the observation of all the things in the world, we're revealing how this world operates, revealing the nature of this world, except either that could be a separate, isolated, myopic worldview, or that gets included into the seichel hakoilel, to the whole story. And we're going to see the ultimate of that is that how the universe moves, how the orbits of the planets and the galaxies move. That's like the ultimate of how the world is moving. And if you could connect all of that back to the first cause, then you have the ultimate worldview. And everything we're going to see in a moment, we're going to see there's big orbits in the world, there's smaller orbits, smaller. The bigger orbits are like major visionary things. And then there's smaller things and smaller things and smaller things. All of that, though, connects to the beginning. So let's see that inside. V'tekech achar kach einu yoidin klal. Rak yoidin she'asoy deitzleinu. Ki ein anu moidin lahem zois ha'chochma be'etzem shehi soid ha'ibr. The actual soid of this, they call this soid ha'ibr. The actual secret of this is not just that we've got great mathematical and telescopic abilities to measure the nature of the world, but there's a message behind it. That's the soid ha'ibr. And really the soid ha'ibr means that we're also moving the planets. Because the soid ha'ibr is us now moving time, us designing time, which is an amazing yichud, by the way, is that not only can we observe the planetary movements, we use the planetary movements to help move reality forward. Which is interesting. What were one of the things that the ancient Greeks, hated during the Hanukkah? They couldn't handle Rosh Chodesh. Meaning, what do you mean? I thought they were great scientists. They couldn't handle the fact that we would decide if it would be this day or this day.
Why they can't?
Because that means that we're now connected to the whole story. They said it's just a scientific discipline. They couldn't handle the fact that we have basically, our soul is part of that. We're guiding it also. that there's a unification that God says that you can help determine when Pesach is going to be, when Yom Kippur is going to be, when Rosh Hashanah is going to be. That they couldn't handle. They couldn't handle Shabbos. Yeah.
Can we still do astrology today?
Can we? If you go speak to the big tzaddikim.
They're being tzaddikim. You think
And that big tzad could be you. Yeah, Reb Nachman. Yeah.
He can like read the stars.
Reb Nachman.
No, not Reb Nebenzahl.
So there's different styles. If you ask Reb Nebenzahl about star reading, he may tell you just, better to just learn some Gemara and Halacha, and it'll be a better approach. But he'll probably give you a twinkle in his eye that if you keep with your Gemara and your Halacha learning, that there's a place that you can go with this. We're going to see in a moment. So let's see inside. Look what the Rebbe says. Rak sheyesh b'zeh seichel she'chayim lo haris la zois ha'chochma le'einayim levad leman yedu shezois ha'chochma hi etzleinu aval etzem soid ha'chochma nishar etzleinu, that we're able to share something, but there's an awareness that there's a deeper storyline here. There's something more than just how can I precisely map out the stars and the movement of the orbits of the world. There's a deeper storyline here. And look what it says. The Zebechin is Soid HaIber. This is now the secret of the Iber. She'ena nimsa rak legedoyle hador, sheyesh lahem neshamas gedoylos. So wait a second. Is this something that every one of us can understand? The messaging from the orbits of the universe? Or is this something that's only given over to the gedoyle hador, that have big neshamas? So far I would have said it could be for anybody. But now Reb Nachman says it's really for neshamas gedoylos, for big souls. Is it for you and I? I'm around big souls here. Is it for me? Or is it for Rabbi Chaim? Who's the one that could really interpret all the secrets of the movements of the universe?
That's what the Chaim is. It's the sort of gap. It's like if you believe in something, that there's something that you don't understand and somebody else does understand, then you become part of that chain also.
Oh, so Moti said like that yesterday. So beautiful. He said, what is neshamas gedoylos? Neshamas gedoylos. Like, Baba Sali, Rashi, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, neshamas gedoylos. Rosh Shiva, what's the neshamas gedoylos? So he said, what is the idea? The idea here is that I become aware that all the movements, that all of the things that are happening to me is really koilel, is really coming from the Chachma Ila'ah. It's all coming from source. It's all coming from source, meaning I'm big enough to see Hashem in the entirety of the story. The whole picture from Mendel. The whole thing. Mamish. Even when we talk about Eitzes Yesharis in the beginning of the Torah, so what do we talk about? We said, when you have Emunas Chachamim, which is Lois Sasali Yamin small, they help you go on the Derech Memutza, to go on a straight path, and they give you an Eitzah. But what's the Eitzah? The Eitzah says, on the right side, maybe I should go like this. Should I invest in the business? Okay, maybe yes. But maybe I should not invest so much. Maybe I should, take money away from the investment. How do I go? So this side takes everything into account. It's very holistic. Takes the whole story into account, and then it includes everything in the Derech HaMelech. What's the right, healthy path to go forward? It's not extremist. It's very much, it takes all things into account, and how can I make a decision to go forward? That's the whole picture. So the neshamas gedoylos could be any person who's a very holistic person that sees the whole story, all the movements, and is able to bring everything back to Hashem, which means every one of us could become a neshamas gedolos. Every one of us, kefi, how much we're koilel ourselves in the whole picture, as opposed to the Rav She'ena Hogan has separated himself off from the Masorah. He's like doing his own thing. He's splintered off. A neshama gedola is able to see everything and put the whole picture into perspective, which could be any one of us. And Yossi.
As far as investment making decisions goes, and as far as using the Soida Ibra to predict the future, do tzaddikim, I guess, know...
Tzaddikim give business advice.
Specifically stock tips, like just knowing the future, like...
Tzaddikim give business advice. Remember, they're taking the whole picture into account. The whole geopolitical, everything, all movements, because they're seeing the movement, how everything is going. And they can tell you if they're bullish or not, like, they see where things are going. They see the vision of where things are going. That's the way it always was. People always would come to, the Rabbanim to ask, about a new business and what he thinks on it. And then he's going to see all the storyline. There's a famous, like a little maisa that the Rosh Yeshiva likes to tell over, is that the Rosh Yeshiva said one time back in the day he had like a plumbing thing in his house. So there was like an interesting spot in his house where the plumbing made like a very sharp turn, and he needed basically, bless you, an eitzah to get this piece in place. So he went to the Bukharian Shuk, and he went to speak to the plumbers over there, and he started to describe the whole storyline. And they knew the Rosh Yeshiva was a big person in learning, and they were trying to work out, like, what's the best eitzah, like how he's going to work out this piece. So the Rosh Yeshiva was having a challenge seeing the piece and seeing to time the plumbers. So the plumbers were also trying to understand the story, and the plumbers basically said, like, this is a very difficult situation. And the plumbers said like this. They said, if you can't figure this out, and you're a seichel hakoila, the plumbers were like, I don't think we can either. Like, this is a very difficult thing. I mean, the plumbers were acknowledging that the tzaddik, he's like the ultimate plumber. He sees everything. He's got all things moving and can incorporate everything into this storyline. And they basically acquiesced that, you know what, actually I think your eitzah is going to be the best. As a nice little, maisa. It's acknowledging the seichel hakoil. It's acknowledging the bigness of the real tzaddikim. They have a very holistic picture on everything. And by the way, you see this in the Gemara. The rabbis were doing all the household stuff, and they were doing all the complex, tikkunim and handyman stuff. We don't say that, a rabbi's like, don't bother me with these lowly, fixing the cabinet or something. Get the job done. Figure it out. That's all part of the sugya of life. Now, this is a beautiful little part, and we'll end with this. I have to pick up with this tomorrow. Ki taluchos hagalgalim hu alidei sichlim. Okay, this is fascinating. The movement of the orbits comes from something called a seichel. The orbit's not just moving on its own. Each orbit has a certain seichel, has a certain wisdom in it that's moving it in that particular way. And why is that orbit moving differently than this orbit? What is this seichel? Shehem ha-malachim. That's really what an angel is. An angel is a certain technology, a certain purpose that's moving a certain orbit. That's called an angel. Now these angels are moving, but where are the angels getting their power from? From the source, from Hashem. But don't think there's only like one type of angel. The kol galgal v'galgal yesh lo seichel miyuchad. Every single one of these spheres and these orbits has its own seichel, a special one, the Hainu Malach. You know how many different malachim there are? There's countless cadres and legions of angels. Legions upon legions. And every one of those legions are just heads of other legions and cadres of countless malachim. And each malach has all sorts of unique powers. And Rabbi Kiva talks about what the malachim are doing. And the malachim have 1,000 mouths with 1,000 tongues in each mouth. And each of those tongues are singing a different song. And they're all harmonizing. And you have legions upon legions and cadres and then heads of legions that are all harmonizing these beautiful songs together. And they're moving the universe around. They're moving things. And each one has their own song and mission and purpose. And you have to see those movements and see that, it's not a physical thing, to see those angels. Shemisna gal yoder. And each one of these galgalim have energies. This is where it starts to get into the astrology of the story. Is that once I see the movement, I see that there's a purpose here. Something's being moved through this orbit. And through that malach, through that seichel, that energy, that purpose, it's moving that particular galgal. And then Reb Nachman says, and we see this, there's certain orbits that are monthly. They have a monthly orbit. There's certain orbits that are like a year orbit. Like the Earth and the Sun. It's a yearly orbit. There's certain galgalim that need a lot of time. There's certain galgalim that are thousands of years. And some of the Rabbanim understood there were certain galgalim with 36,000 year orbits. And the Aztecs were big into this, that there's certain movements that are very big, that the mission of that movement is very, very big, long term. And everything is according to the nature of that seichel. Shehem mishtanim, and why is there differences in the length and the nature of these orbits? It's all lefi ishtanas hasichlim, according to the nature of the seichel, the malach that's guiding it. Now, this line I want you to answer. Shehem mishtanim lefi richukim me'a'ila, and according to how far they are from source, will be the nature of how long the orbit is and the nature of the orbit. So let me ask you, if something is closer to the source, is it a short orbit or a long orbit? Sounds like yeshiva. Short, long. Defend your position.
Sources.
The Ila from Hashem.
As long as Hashem's time perspective is like really, really long, so it's more in line with like his perspective.
The bigger the diameters,
You have the
the
sun in the
longer
middle,
it'll take
the
to make a
Earth
full
here,
circle.
orbit shorter compared to like Jupiter here. It's a bigger circle.
Bigger circle takes
So the
longer.
bigger one is more closer to Hashem.
It's longer.
Yeah.
So what are these orbits? What does it mean, a short orbit? Remember, all of these orbits, this whole Torah is talking about anytime that you encounter something in life, anything in life, and you have to see, like, how is this decision going to move me forward in life? You have to make an eitzah. You need an eitzah. You need a hanhaga. So there's certain hanhagas which are shorter term hanhagas. I want to say that Rav Nachman is talking about goal-setting technology. That there's certain goals that a person has to have, which are like, short-term goals. Short-term decisions. Should I have a coffee now? Yes or no? Okay, how will that affect the next few hours of my life? But you can't say that short-term decision is just an isolated decision. It needs to take a lot of things into account. Have I already had coffee today? Do I have stomach problems when I have coffee? There's a lot that can go into it. Is there maybe medical issues with me having coffee? Am I going to is it going to be giving me the jitters if I have too much? Am I going to be too wired if I have a coffee right now? Is it not necessary? Is it not necessary? You have to go into the bigger orbits, monthly goals. yearly goals, 10-year goals. The larger the orbit is being able to see the bigger picture. I mean, the biggest orbit really is, how am I going to get through it? This is not the biggest. How am I going to get through the next 120 years successfully? Okay, Shas. You have a plan? Poiskin. Shulchan Aruch. Noise Kelim. Rambam. Tosefta. Braisa. Maisa Merkava. Maisa Chashmal. Maisa Bereshis. No, we have a plan here. Zoyar. Eitz Chaim. To have a plan here. To have a plan. And ideally, now that's not the biggest because there's Gilgulim. It's really the whole entirety of all my lives. So there's a galgal that I'm like, if I go with this hanhaga, with this seichel, then there's like a big movement of the galgal. But there's also smaller galgalim. What's my 10-year plan, 5-year plan, 1-day plan that I map out today? Really, the idea is that any of my shorter term plans should fit into the longer term vision. I mean, do my small galgalim, do my small little orbits, does today's day fit into my 1-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan? If it doesn't, then that's a problem. It means I'm disconnected from the big galgal. And if I say I want to get somewhere by the time I'm 20 years old, well, and I succeeded in that. Yeah, but did that set me up of where I should be when I'm 30 or I'm 50? There's a popular thing people say, I have to build my career up. And like when I'm like, I got like 6 or 7 digits in the bank, then we'll think about a family. But what if he only gets there when he's 30, 40, 50? So maybe that didn't work in the bigger plan. He forgot the fact that it's a good idea to get married and have kids. So even though it's a good idea to have money, but he got confused in the smaller galgal and didn't put it into the larger, these long orbits. That's why Yid has to have very visionary eyes. Where am I going? How do I see the whole, very long orbits? And how are these decisions that I'm making now, today, fit into very big plans and big orbits? Someone who knows this, he's tapping into part of the Soida Ibra, of how can I be moving through this life and seeing all the galgalim and seeing everything moving. Now there's going to be interesting galgalim. There's going to be these little galgalim that come up and they try to sometimes throw me off, get caught up in this small galgal. It's also interesting, the galgal is like you're running in a circle. And he's like little, there's like this big gal, it's like a long-term rate. I did a lot of running back in the day. I still enjoy running, like long, like cross-country runs, and like marathons, like ultra marathons. That was like my jam. So there's certain people that like kind of like rookies in the game. So like they would run very, very fast in the beginning, and then you would see them like they just, they conk out. Now this is like a 30K race here. You're gonna just give it everything you have? If there's a big start, it could be that last sprint is good towards the end, but to have that sprint at the beginning, you have to be careful. This is a big galgal. How am I organizing myself? What's your technique on hills? Sometimes that's a whole move. Which, by the way, I'll tell you, this is a technique. I spoke to one of the top guys in Toronto, and I felt like he was like my Rebbe a little bit, like in cross-country running. Like I knew of him, like these guys, like of. And then I met him at a race. And like, how'd you win all the races? So he said, this is my side. When everybody hits the hill, they always like push it on the hill. And as soon as they get to the top of the hill, they just like they kind of relax because like they made it up the hill. So they're like, okay, shkoya, but then like they go slow at the top of the hill because they're pooped out from the hill. Said, my side is, I run up and over the hill. As soon as I go over the hill, I don't stop. I keep running, and that's exactly when I make all my passes. Because everybody basically slows down at the top of the hill. That was like his galgal of understanding how to get to the end. That one move there, it's not easy because everything is pushing, just slow down, you made it over the hill. He said, that's where I mamish made all my money. And I have one story that we had a race, which was the North York Championships, which is basically like all of Toronto and he was in the North York region, and it was like the Greater Toronto, and he was in that race, and I beat him in that race.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was like my greatest run ever.
Oh my God.
And it was at the end also. It was at the end because he was mamish amazing. But he was doing that. That Pashut, he was doing that. But it was at the end, it was at the last. And I was more into like at the end, you just like give it everything you have. So that was like my galgal, my soid is at the end. And I remember right at the end, like it was 3 of us and he was there and I just looked at him, just booked it. That was like my finest moment. My 15 minutes of fame. Yeah. So it's all about making these moves of small galgalim, larger galgalim, very big galgalim. How can I run the whole lifetime and see these galgalim? Okay, we're just opening up this Torah. The Torah is it's starting to open up. We should be zoicha mamish. We should be zoicha to the emunas chachamim. We should be zoicha to the soida ibur. We should be zoicha to understanding all the sichlim and the malachim, but always connecting it up to the ilah. And really, I think Ramati was right. He said yesterday, and it resonates with me, that the closer to the ilah, the larger the galgal. The closer to the source is the longer galgal because it's more visionary. That's closer to source. The small galgalim are things that people get lost in. It's just like, let me get to my week vacation and just I can't think of anything else. I just got to make it to TGIF. Like that you get lost in this like little galgal. I made it. That's moving further away from source consciousness, where the closer you are to source consciousness, it's like very visionary. You see where life is going. You're able to see. And a person who lives with that, the closer you are to the ilah, to the source, the more visionary of a person you are, the more futuristic you could see. You see, like you're mapping like a very big picture, 36,000 year orbits. Like where are we going? So we should be zoich mamish to have eyes that see into the future. Ezu chacham, like it says. Haroyas hanoilad. Who is the wise one who sees into the future? He understands the big galgalim. We should be zoich to this mamish. We should be zoich to v'sechezene eineinu b'shuvach halitzion. We have a vision of redemption. We're always seeing long term. Like the Rambam says, Afal pisha yitmameh. Im kol ze achak eloi b'chol yom tamid sheyavai. Both a small galgal and the daily galgal, but also the vision that thousands of years we know that Mashiach is coming. We're so much visionary. We have very long vision, very long-term vision. And with that, mamish will see great peace and healing for the whole world. And we'll see tremendous aura. Yoitz mishpateinu la'orim, we'll see mamish, the ingathering of all the exiles. We'll see a tremendous light and beauty filling the world once again. We'll see the Beis Tifarteinu, the beautiful Beis Hamikdash once again. Ki Beis Tefillah Yikar L'Kol Olam, that all of humanity, all of the Ksav Yodim will be Nichlal, and Ksav Yodeinu will see tremendous ore of the Torah, the Eitz Chaim Mihila Machzikim Ba. We should be saying to this. Amen ve'amen. Amen. Awasheinu Matoragenu Manayim Yalei. Awasheinu Matoragenu Manayim Yalei. Manayim